All right, on this episode of the LPDS, we're getting into a hot button issue on whether or not single guys and single girls can be platonic friends. If it's possible, how? If it's not possible, why not? We get your thoughts from the fans, the fan thoughts, the feedback. I'll give you my thoughts on it, and we'll have a good time doing it and seeing if it can work. All that, plus some current events, plus a Cage fact, all coming to you right now. All right, Jabronis, we're back. Welcome back to the Libretti Podcast Diary Show. I'm your host, Libretti. It's the show that talks about nothing but seems to find the lessons in everything. And we have a good time doing it, share a few laughs in the process, and hopefully entertain the masses as well. So thank you guys for being here. I hope you guys had a good week. I did. It's still busy. Things are moving and shaking over here in the LPDS compound, the ranch here. So I hope things are going well for you guys. A lot of stuff happened this week. Some very ironic stuff happened this week in the news that I want to get to. We are going to talk in the Junction. We're going to be discussing the hot button question on whether or not people can, guys and girls can be friends. Single guys, single girls can be platonic friends only without there being any sort of, wishy-washy stuff going on. So that'll be in the Junction. Actually, if any of you guys know this podcast called Mean Girls, it's a Barstool Sports podcast with Alex Bennett and Jordan Woodruff and some other girl, I think, as well. It's a very popular podcast. They do a great job. Talk about a whole bunch of different topics. And apparently they were discussing this on one of their recent episodes that they recorded with another Barstool employee, but there was a whole do this past week about that episode. It wasn't what they were looking for from the guest, so they scrapped it. And then apparently this guest, got the audio from them and was able to post it on his Barstool podcast, Oops, the Podcast, it's called, and that's on YouTube, and it was his recent episode. If I can find the link, I'll pop it up here for you guys to go check it out. But they talk about this very same topic very briefly, not as in-depth as we're going to probably get into, but it was just funny that we thought of this, and then an actual world-renowned podcast media tycoon had the same topic as well. So it's popular. So we're going to get into the heated debate in the Junction, so stay tuned for that. First, though, got some Epstein updates for everybody. And you know how I like to talk about Epstein updates because I want to bring these people to justice. Now, first I was seeing a couple videos recently of people talking about the released list of the guys and gals who went to Epstein Island. Which this list would theoretically be the list of sort of suspects involved in the child sex trafficking ring and raping and all that. Crap, I gotta go censor myself now because I'm saying curse words, and this is a family show, so I'm sorry, Terrence. Put the kid away. Already 4 minutes in and I'm dropping S-bombs. Sorry about that. So this is what a month or so ago, they were saying how the FBI is going to release the list finally, unredacted. We're still waiting on that, but there was a couple videos out saying that here's the list of the people. I'm going to do a little fact checking here. It's not the list. Okay? The videos that have come out, I don't know what they were talking about, but the list has not been released. Their list has not been leaked. The people that they were talking about on their Instagram videos, some of these folks that posted videos, was from the leaked list back in 2020. Now, if you didn't hear about that leaked list, it's because nobody covered it, except for here on the LPDS pretty much. That list included people like Will Smith, Kevin Spacey, Tom Hanks, the Trumps, the Bidens. Who else? A couple other prominent actors, actresses, Beyonce, Jay-Z. Who is that gal from Good Will Hunting, the main Good Will Hunting gal? Minnie Driver, that's it. All these top dogs were on that list. Prince Andrew, as we know. And, of course, they only picked and choose who they decided to cover back in 2020 when the list apparently leaked. That's the list that these people were talking about now. So I want to shoot that down right now. There is no new list yet. The list has not been released or leaked at all yet, unfortunately. We're still waiting for the FBI and whoever else has this to do what they said that they're going to do and release this list and bring these people to justice. So, unfortunately, there's no good news in that regard. However, this past week, Ghislaine Maxwell was doing an interview with these journalists for I don't know if it was a documentary, just like a big time interview that they were gonna publish soon on television. She did this from prison, and in this interview, apparently she was talking about, alluding to how Epstein's death was not a suicide; it was more of a murder, a planned out attack. Coincidentally, right after this interview, they took Ghislaine Maxwell and threw her in solitary confinement for like 2 days, 48 hours, I think it said. I think on the article, I'm going to look up here to verify. Yeah, 48 hours in her maximum security prison in Florida. They took her and put her in the box for 2 days, and apparently guests of the box say it's not fun. You're sitting there cramped all day. You're only let out once a day to shower. Everything else you do with your existence is in that box for usually it's 2 weeks. And you only go in there when you get into a fight, you fail a drug test, or you break some other law in there. There's only 3 things that get you in the box. And what Ghislaine Maxwell did was not one of them, but they tossed her in there anyway. They said that she was selling her story to the media for money, but there's no evidence to suggest that she even got paid for that. She was just doing an interview, and they threw her in the box to shut her up and scare her a little bit. So keep eyes on that. All right? That seems like a nothing story. A prisoner goes into solitary confinement for being a prisoner, but we all know there's a little bit more behind this whole story than that. So Ghislaine better start talking now before it's too late, before she gets suicided too, because we need her to loosen the lips a little bit more so we can bring these people to justice again. That's the whole point, is to bring the suspects to justice so that they're not continuing to run the country and be in all our movies and music videos and stuff. So that's all I got on that. Another really funny story. It's almost like this is an Onion article or Babylon Bee article, but it's not. It's real. I think most people are tracking this whole Alex Murdaugh murder trial. I think he's a prominent lawyer who was accused of murdering his wife and maybe some other people I don't exactly know. I think there was a documentary on it on Netflix or some streaming service about it as well, but he was going through his trial. Known murder expert, or I should say getting away with murder expert, O.J. Simpson decided to chime in on his Twitter this week, or last week, I guess, depending on when you're listening to this, saying that based on his testimony, based on Alex Murdaugh's testimony, is it Murdaugh or Murdoch or Murduff? I don't know. It's one of those weird spelling names that could be pronounced a number of different ways, but O.J. Simpson says that based off of the testimony and how he went about giving his side of the story, O.J. thinks that he can very easily beat the case, but O.J. also thinks that he likely murdered his wife. Now, I'm more than inclined to believe O.J. And his opinion as a sort of an expert opinion, because who better to know how things like this are going to go than the guy who got away with murdering his wife? who beat the case but likely murdered his wife. All he's doing is he's reporting on what he knows to be true. This is what I did to get away with it, and I likely did it because I did it. He's doing all this stuff as well, so he probably did it too, but he could also get away with it and beat the case because of he's following my playbook. The fact that O.J. Simpson is on Twitter with these cockamamie videos to begin with is beyond me. But the balls, the scruples this guy has to comment on murder trials, being the guy we all know got away with murder, is absolutely just tremendous for content, but absolutely wild to think about. I mean, it's a clown show. It is a clown show. We are being run by clowns. What is that? The nuts have taken over the insane asylum? I forgot what that saying is, but that's what it is. That's what this story really just proves, is that the nut jobs are running the insane asylum now at this point. And I know that's not the real saying. There's a better way to say it, but the brain's been firing on all cylinders all week, so I'm kind of short-circuiting right now, so I apologize. Now, moving on. We all remember the Tennessee cop, Megan Hall, whatever, who got herself fired and 4 other male police officers fired for their wild sex orgies and doing sex with each other in the office and all that stuff, and the cheating and the swingers and how you doings. Well, she's recently spoken out saying that she was doing this was against her will, and I know if she said something like everyone is going to say, well, you could have just said no if you really didn't want to do it, but she's saying she was pressured into doing it, and she said no repeatedly until she was pretty much forced to do it and coerced to do it, and that she was essentially groomed into this sexual lifestyle, this sort of orgy sort of stuff that was going on. Now, on one hand, it's very easy to retort back with, of course you're going to say that. That's what your lawyer tells you to say. Play the victim in this whole thing so that you can minimize, repercussions of all this. And that's the initial reaction most people probably had when they saw that. On the other hand, though, it's also entirely possible that 4 grown-ass men who get to carry guns for a living coerced this rookie young bumpkin of a police officer who happens to be female and happens in this case to be physically meeker in the flesh than those 4 male cops. Not prisoners. Well, now they're prisoners. So it's entirely possible that she was coerced into doing something like this and potentially groomed. My only sort of pushback to that whole thing is, didn't she host a party of her own? Didn't she host one of the sex orgies or something like that? So it would be, unless they pressured her into hosting it as well and forcing her to do it at her own domicile, I don't know the facts of that case. I don't know, what happened there, but it is an interesting, sort of update, a turn of events, and that whole do-to-do. That's dead now. It's been dead for a couple weeks now because we have hobbyist balloons getting shot down and UFOs and, other stuff, support to the Ukraine that we got to keep doing. So we've been missing the updates on that story. So that's the update there. Very interesting turn of events. I'm curious to see how that goes and if there's evidence to suggest that she was being groomed, because that's a real problem. That's really why I wanted to bring this up. That's a real problem. Is there are countless people out there that are doing things with their lives that you think is voluntary, that you think they're doing it to make money, like hookers and strippers and other stuff like that, escorts or whatever. But more times than not, it's not voluntary. Now, there there are certainly people who volunteer to do this, the sex work stuff, and they love it, and they get enjoyment out of it, and they get money out of it, and it's great. It's a great living, and I'm all for that. But there's also people who are forced into it. So it's very entirely possible that a young rookie, dopey police officer got coerced and pressured by 4 hulking men, veteran police officer men, into becoming this sort of, I don't know what you want to call it, sex addict, whatever, exhibitionist. I don't know what they called it, but that's that. That's what's going on over there. So now, do you guys, let me know if you guys enjoy the current events and if you want to hear more on a certain topic that I've covered in the past. If you want to hear less, let me know. I like doing it because it keeps me up on the times. And again, for my own education and improvement in life, it gives me the opportunity to see a topic that just happened and think about it and formulate an opinion that hopefully entertains and educates you guys at the same time, where I'm not fumbling over my words too much and my thoughts too much. So that's kind of why I've been doing it. If you don't like it, let me know, and we'll see if things change. I might just take your feedback and not change at all. But I do appreciate the feedback. You guys know I listen to you, and I take it in wholeheartedly, and that's that. So without further ado, though, step into the cage.
Okay, let's run.
All right, today's Into the Cage segment is proudly sponsored by Gary's Gas Masks. Do you have a friend or a significant other or even a dog that you love, but they constantly smoke you out with their rancid flatulence, and there doesn't seem to be anything you can do to escape the fumes? Well, now you can with Gary's Gas Masks. Gary created a customized mobile gas mask you can fit into your fanny pack and quickly whip it out in a pinch. The unlicensed technology provides quality airflow in through the mask while also blocking off any foul smells in the process, so that you can confidently sit next to your lady even after she takes down an entire can of baked beans. So to get your mask today, visit www.fartfighter.com and use the promo code POOPERPUFF for 29% off your first mask. Pooper Puff. Say that 10 times fast. That's that. All right, the cage fact. As you all know, as you should know, for the new listeners, maybe not, but for the returning ride or dies, you should all know that Nic Cage is in a movie called Renfield, where he plays Dracula, and that's coming out in April. I believe it's the 14th it premieres. Don't quote me. I have to confirm that, but I believe it's the 14th it premieres. In an interview, as they're doing their interview circuits and stuff for that movie because it's a month away, they were asking him about his character as Dracula and how he had a really good time doing it. And one of the things he mentioned about it was that he would be interested in doing an entire movie around that Dracula character, his character that he plays, having like a prequel or a side story movie, whatever they call it in the business, of just Dracula, like focused on him. He would be the main character in this. In Renfield is the main character. It's his apprentice. But he would like to do that because he said he didn't get enough time to really delve into the psyche of the character and create something of, real great magnitude. Of course, we know we're going to get a tremendous, fantastic, stupendous Nic Cage performance in Renfield. But to be able to do a whole movie as Dracula, as the main character, that's something I definitely want to see, and I hope he pursues that aggressively as well. If not, I'll call the director myself and try to make it happen. We'll see if we can get this done, because that would be an incredible, awesome thing to see, Nic Cage doing that stuff. All right, that's the Cage fact. Thank you for that. Moving on over into the Junction. Spin the logo up. Hot topic today. And I only say that because usually I'll get the responses in Instagram or the quick responses in text or DMs or whatever, It's just the answer and that's it. But I've had several people come to me directly, via message or what have you, to have full-on debates about their feelings towards this particular topic. And the topic is, of course, can single guys and single girls be platonic friends without any of the messy stuff? Just be friends. Single. Both of them single. Can they be friends? Can it work? Without them either doing the do or one of them, whether outwardly or secretly, wanting to do the do with the other one. And people, again, hot topic. That's what people were very adamant one way or the other about this one. And it became an interesting, conversation piece to have and something definitely worth talking about. Now, this question was brought up to me originally by the Creature, and we had a back and forth about it. And then Wet Cat's wife, Mrs. Wet Cat, was like, why don't you toss it out to the fans and see what they think? So 2 great ideas, the question itself, and then to bring it to you guys, the fans. So I have to give them the credit. That's not on me. I was not smart enough this time around to think about that on my own. It was all them, so thank you for that one. Now, this was a lot more split than I thought it was going to be honest with you. And the demographic of it was a lot more split and mixed and mingled than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be something where most people say, no, it can't work, and most of those people were, women, and then most of the men said, yeah, it can work because they want it to work. But it wasn't like that at all. It was very, very down the middle, a lot of nuance, a lot of gray area with this one, so it was fun. Now, the first guy here, I'm not going to keep it all anonymous. So I'm not going to be mentioning people's names and why they picked the way they did, and what that's not right for this topic. One guy here said, no, it can't work, and his reasoning was, and this is clearly a joke, bitches be shopping. Now, I don't know if he meant shopping for other dudes, or if that's just a saying, or he was just being funny in general, but that's the reason why. He thinks it can't work because bitches be shopping. Now, I'm sure I'm going to get some heat 10 years down the road when someone wants to come after me and cancel me because I said bitches be shopping like 4 times already, but whatever. That's that. We're going to go with it. So thank you for that input. This other person here, this is a good point, very fair point here. They said no, and they said, have you ever seen the show Friends, the TV show Friends? They couldn't even make it one episode without getting into it with each other. And that was a famous TV show with very famous, successful people. Now, it brings up a good point. A couple good points, actually. One, it's a TV show. Of course it couldn't work. They didn't want it to work. They wanted it to mix and mingle and this and that. However, it was a decently realistic TV show in the fact that that's how it is when you have that's how it is a lot of the times when you have single, different sex people as friends like that. Usually it's only a matter of time before some of them get together. And then you throw in, the fact that it's a show, and there you go. Seinfeld, you can argue one or the other on this one. If you ever seen Seinfeld, because it was Elaine was the female friend, and George, Jerry, and Kramer were the male friends, and only Jerry and Elaine got together. And they were friends the entire 9 seasons without any other people doing stuff with each other. However, though, there is the one episode of Seinfeld where Elaine does that recording during one of Jerry's comedy sets. Jerry was setting up a recorder in the back to record his set so he can improve his craft. Elaine saw the recorder back there recording, and she started saying all this nasty, filthy stuff in the recording. And she didn't tell him it was her. And George Costanza and Kramer heard that, and they both got hot for Elaine after that, for that one episode only. And then after that, it was platonic. And it was a funny episode, very entertaining. They made it work very well. But the rest of that show, they were just friends. And they had seemingly no attraction to each other whatsoever the entire rest of the time, besides Jerry and Elaine. So that was an interesting sort of thing there that they made it work somehow. I know it's a show, but you can sort of make that argument again. Maybe it could work in real life. This person here wrote, it depends, because not everybody is attracted to everyone else they meet in the world, which makes sense. You meet a ton of people. You become friends and acquaintances with a ton of people, both sexes, or however many sexes there are now, and you're just not attracted to them in that way where you want to do stuff with them. The argument on the other side of that is, well, you might not be, but the other person probably is. One of you is always attracted to the other, secretly or outwardly. That's the argument there. This person says they don't think that's the case. They think it is possible because you're just not attracted to everybody you meet. There is a likelihood that in the course of your life, you're going to find someone of the opposite sex who is single, and you want to be friends with them, but you're not attracted to them, and they feel the same way about you. That's what this person is saying, so thank you for that one. Another guy here said, yeah, it can totally work if the other friend of the opposite sex is gay or lesbian. And that makes total sense, too, if you think about it. Because if I'm a guy and I'm friends with a girl and I'm gay or she is lesbian, of course we're not going to be attracted to one another. And we could be friends and not have to worry about that. So yeah, that's totally possible. The likelihood is a little lower because of the numbers of people in the gay community compared to the straight community in this country. But it's definitely possible. This person here, so thank you for that feedback, by the way, whoever sent that in. This guy right here says no, because unequivocally, the vast majority of the time, not unequivocally, I just contradicted myself, but the vast majority of the time, somebody is going to be into the other person. They're going to find some sort of attraction. They're going to secretly want them. Or they brought up the point, too, that, yeah, you may be friends with that person that of the opposite sex who's also single and you never did stuff together. But if she, for our conversation, this is a guy saying this, but if this girl came up to you and said, hey, we've been friends for years, but I'm kind of hot for you right now, there's no way you're not saying, let's do this thing, or let's not do this thing. I know I confused the hell out of people just now. I got it. I know. In my head, it made sense. Outside, it did not make one bit of sense. What this person was trying to say was that at any given moment, if you're friends with, as a guy, if you're friends with a chick who's single and they come up to you and say, let's do this thing, you're going to do it. And if you're not, you're still proving that person's a point that somebody in that friendship wanted to take this to the next level. And that there's no platonic only friendship. There's only platonic surface level friendship with under the table attraction in there. So thank you for that input. I hope I clarified that a little bit better. This person here, this is a funny one. This person here wrote, yes, I think it can be done. I'm married and my best friend is a guy. Now, I want all comments and feedback, and I appreciate the fandom going on in the Jabroni Junction for the LPDS. I love it. But this person clearly didn't read the question, clearly didn't watch the video that I posted about the question, because I'm pretty confident I clearly stated single friends. Single guy, single girl. Can they be friends? And she said, I'm married. The first thing she says, yes, I'm married and my best friend's a guy. Yeah, that's why it works. Some would argue. That's why it works, because you're married. You're not going to do anything. But she still said, I pushed back. I told her, I was like, thanks for the feedback, but I'm talking about singles, not marrieds. And she still said, yeah, I still think it can work, but didn't give any sort of reason why anymore was that. And that's what we got. We did get a lot of feedback. We got a lot of answers. And then when it came time to give the reason why, a lot of people just repeated their answer. Yes, they can. And they just wrote it in a sentence form as opposed to just the poll question form that I had originally. So in the future, if you have a reason, I'd like to hear it. And there's no need to repeat what you said previously, yes or no. You just give me the reason. I got it on the poll, yes, and then you can just tell me the reason next time, and that would be a little bit more helpful. But I appreciate the feedback at all, so keep it up. Thank you very much for that. This person here wrote, yes, but only you can be friends with the opposite sex platonically, but only if you've already hooked up in the past. So again, you're already hooked up. It's over. If you're platonic only, that's the question. Can you only be platonic? Can you meet somebody of the opposite sex and both of you outwardly be like, I want to be friends, but that's it. I don't want to do anything else. I have no desire to do anything else with you in particular. I just want to be friends only forever or for however long. If you hook up beforehand, you break that cycle and it's over. You did stuff already. And then you could be friends. Yeah, it makes sense you could be friends after because you already did it. You already know how it is. You both probably didn't, it's over. We're done with. We don't see a future in that. Now we can be friends and move on amicably. So yeah, absolutely, I believe that you can do that after you've done the do already and still be friends. Now, what I'd like to offer on my side is I voted depends on this. It depends. And not just to be a mushball and throw a wrench into the whole discussion. I think it is possible. So technically, yes, I think it's possible, but not all the time. I don't think it's probable. That's why I said depends. Because there are circumstances where you can have, and I'm not talking extenuating circumstances. I'm just talking about more popular circumstances that other people aren't privy to or don't experience in their lives that would make this more of a common thing. For me personally, it's the fact that I was in the military. Still really am in the military. I've met a ton of people of the opposite sex in the military, and we're just friends. None of us have any sort of desire to do stuff with the other person. A lot of times you're meeting in sort of stressful, shitty conditions, and you become friends based off of the shared stress and shit that you've experienced together. Just like that, if you were on a sports team, like some of my best friends in the world are from those two things. Sports teams I play with where we both had to endure the suck together of tryouts and practice and running and punishments and all that stuff together. Or in the military where you had to be in the shit together in some way, shape, or form. And you share that bond. When you share stuff like that, when you go through tough experiences together, you form a bond, a friendship that you can't really explain to other people who haven't experienced that, but it's there and it's pretty lifelong. And I have a lot of friends from the military that are female that I've shared that with, and neither of us have a desire to do stuff with the other person. And now I know the naysayers are going to argue, well, you don't know that they don't feel that way. They told me that. Yeah, and you're right. There is a small percentage that they could be lying to me, but they're not. Like, when your friends are lying to you and when they're being real with you. And the friends I keep close to in my circle of friends, my inner circle, they're not lying. There's no reason to lie to each other at that point. We've been through too much. We know that. And if they are lying, then they're not going to be friends with me anymore. But they're not, so that's not a big deal. But yeah, so I believe that it can be done. like I said, it happens. It's more common than not in the military, I would imagine, because the reason why you guys are there to begin with is to go train for war, prepare for war, or go fight and do deployments and stuff like that. And you're in the shit together, and you're dealing with training bullshit and bureaucracy bullshit and Uncle Sam bullshit. That's just, you share in the misery. You can commiserate together and become friends in that. And you have that shared experience, and you can become lifelong friends without having any sort of, interest in each other. And I have friends that are female that are married now from the military that were single when we met. One of them, I'm not gonna mention their name, but they told me in the conversation we had one-on-one about this topic, I have plenty of guy friends from my time in the military that were very attractive, and I met them in my single days when I was doing stuff with just about anybody, but we were just friends with each other. And we're still friends with each other. And this person's married now, and we're all still friends and didn't do stuff and had no desire to do stuff with each other. And I think you could call it an exception to the rule, but again, in my world, it's very common to see that because it happens all the time. In other people's worlds, if you're an athlete, if you're a professional athlete, maybe it's not the same. Or if you're work some other government job, a postal worker, a traffic controller, salesman, whatever it is, maybe in your world it's not nearly as common, so that's why you feel the way you do. But in my world, where I kind of came up from in the adult side, it's more than common. So that's why I feel the way I do, and I think that it is a lot more doable, if you will. But some people don't feel that way. One person said, and I like this way of thinking, or I liked where this person was coming from. They said that it depends, but from our genetic makeup as human beings, as animals, as primal creatures, we see the opposite sex very binarily. Is that a word, binarily? Linearly, I guess you can call it. Mate or no mate. The first thing you see when you look at somebody of the opposite sex, before you even start talking to them or whatever, you look at them and say, is this person mateable or not mateable? And that comes from, again, our lineage, our primal lineage of, animal instinct, of we were built to procreate and keep the species going. And then from there, you can go, if you say no mate, but you can go be friends with them, it's possible, and go forth and conquer. But that does bring up a good point of, like, no matter what, you're still looking at each other subconsciously in that mate or no mate mentality. And you might not even realize you're doing it, and it just happens, and then you go from there. So that could prove the point that it's not possible to be platonic friends because you already made a decision whether you want to mate or not mate. It gets confusing. It gets nuanced. Oh, I just slapped the mic here. I hope it wasn't too loud on the camera. And it creates, further delving deep into this topic. And this is why it's such an interesting topic, because it seems so simple. Can you be friends or not? Oh, if you're an adult, you can be friends. And it goes a little bit deeper than you think, so to speak. And this is what I like about bringing this stuff to the fans and getting feedback on what seems to be simple, nothing topics. Because it brings your answers and your opinions and your experience, your diversity, experience, and thought and life brings out information that people don't think about otherwise. I didn't even think about that. The primal nature, the primal, instincts we have in us to do that. So again, a seemingly nothing topic. Can guys and girls be friends? Oh, this is high school crap. There is educational information in this topic. If you dig deep enough, if you can get your brain to critically analyze all facets of the topic of the subject matter before you form your opinion, get other people's opinions based on their education and experience, and bring it all together, and you learn something new. Whether you change your opinion on it or not, you're still learning new things. And I challenge you to tell me otherwise, to prove to me you didn't learn anything new in any of these topics, not just this one, but in general from this show alone. If you haven't learned anything new, I don't, first of all, I don't believe you. Second, I'm curious as to why you're still listening. Maybe because you just like the sound of my honky Jersey Italian jabroni voice. I don't know. But I have to believe that you're probably learning something from this stuff. And this is the reason why I welcome all questions and feedback and comments and topics for the podcast, because no matter how silly it sounds, we're always going to be learning and growing and being entertained by it all. So thank you for the idea to bring this topic to light, to the Junction. That's all I got to say about this one, I think. Let me make sure real quick. Yeah, looks like it. All right. Now, before we go, we got a hotline call. Very excited for this one, so I'm going to pop this one up. I'm going to listen to it. I haven't listened to it yet. I know who it's from, but I haven't listened to it yet. This is going to be first heard for me, so here we go.
Hey, Tony Ciccone, you're a strong video enthusiast. I loved your video last week in regards to discipline and motivation. Who better than you could have the discipline and motivation with all the years you've served in the Air Force? I'm challenging you to be, well, I want to be the first one to challenge whatever you decide to do. You can do it 100%. But I want you to make sure that you follow up with all your viewers and listeners each and every week or 2 weeks on how it's going. I think to put the pressure on yourself is the greatest thing to do, and I'm the kind of guy that can give you the most pressure you ever had in your life. So, Johnny, I applaud you for what you're trying to do. I applaud you for your podcast. You keep getting better and better each and every week, and I hope to see the creature right behind me in his feelings about doing whatever he can do to help you and put the pressure on you as well. Pressure is the name of the game, right, Johnny? In the service, that's all you do is get pressure. So now you're on your own, and I want to pressure you, like I said, to do whatever it is. And I want to hear each and every week again or two what's going on, and the motivation and the discipline is going to be from you. I know it. Do the best that you can. Keep plugging, like I always say to you, and have a great week. And whatever it is, I want 50% of the profits, whatever you make, once you get started. All right, Johnny? Thanks. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.
All right, it looks like we got another minute of pocket talking, because this goes on for another couple minutes here, but there's no talking here. So, all right, that was again a ride or die fan, relative. Some know him as Tony Sacco. He's a cousin. Thank you for the call. He's always commenting. Every YouTube video he comments with something positive and educational, and it's great, so I appreciate that. What I think he's talking about is what I mentioned in a previous episode, episode 149, and you can go back and I'll pop the link up here for you guys to go back and listen to that, where I made the announcement that I'm looking to start a business for myself. He's talking about that, holding me to the fire, because one of the things I asked about was hold me accountable to that, and the reason why I announced it is because I wanted the accountability buddies to keep me moving on that. So I'll provide updates as they come for sure. I'm working on the LLC now, so I am not going to give away the name of the business just yet until that's all finalized, and then I'll keep you posted on all the other updates going from there. There will eventually be a website. There will eventually be social media pages, and this and that, and then we'll get into the dirty details again as things progress legally, per se. So Randy's excited, as you can tell. All right, we're back. Had somebody actually at the door, so Randy did his job and alerted me of potential intruders. So there you go. Thank you for that. Anyway, yes. Short answer is, yeah, I'm working on that. I'll keep you guys apprised. Thank you for the call, Tony. You're definitely a ride or die fan. And I love you for it. So thank you for that. Once I get more updates, I'll keep you guys up to speed. But most of the stuff I'll be able to talk about offline if you guys hit me up directly. But right now, I'm trying to get things going above board and legally, so I'm going to keep it on the DL until that's good to go. So there you go. All right, before we go. Wake me up before you go. Big three. The 3 pillars of the LPDS to staying strong and being a better, happier, more positive person and spreading that goodness throughout. All right, number 1, exercise every day. Whatever you got to do, get the body moving, get the calories burning, get the chemicals surging through your body so you can become healthier physically, mentally, and emotionally. Okay? And hit me up directly if you want to talk more about that in depth. I can go on for days about the importance of health and the things you can do to get there and to build that discipline of doing that. And if you need to learn about discipline, go back to episode 149 and they'll be jam-packed with tips and tricks on building discipline. Number 2, the hardest one to do is don't be a shitty person, be a good person. And what I mean by that is the easiest thing we can do emotionally is when somebody riles us up or gets us angry or posts something we don't agree with or we don't like or whatever it is on social media, the easiest thing for us to do is to act on those emotions and respond negatively. What I'm asking you guys to do is to not do that. Just don't respond. Okay? Let out your emotions, maybe verbally to yourself. Go for a run. Go work out to get out the anger and the aggression inside you. That way, just don't post and don't be shitty to another human being regardless. Just don't do it. I know it's difficult. That's the hardest one to do each and every day because you're emotionally charged up and you want to react. And a lot of times you feel people deserve it because they're saying stupid stuff. They're being mean people themselves. But I promise you, being mean in response to a mean person or being shitty to a person who's also shitty as a response, that doesn't work. Okay? It is not going to change that person to become a better person. It's not going to show you any sort of flattering light that you're able to handle negative situations appropriately. All it's going to do is double the shit and negativity and meanness going on in the situation and in the world. Okay? So just don't do it. It's a simple step. Nothing. You just do nothing instead. Okay? It's hard. I get it. It's simple but difficult. I understand the conundrum that we face with that one. All right, number 3, the most important one, be genuinely thankful and grateful for all the good you have in your lives. And what I mean by that is to take a moment in your day to actively think about something good in your life and be grateful that it's in your life, that you have that ability or whatever it is. I can walk on both my legs. I'm not paralyzed. I'm not disabled. I have a roof over my head. I have family members who love me. I have a spouse, kids, family, money, whatever it is that's good in your life. Just take a moment in your day to think about one thing. Actively stop whatever else you're doing and think about that and how wonderful it is to have that thing in your life, and you'll feel better about yourself. And then eventually you start changing your brain stems and your circuitry into constantly thinking about that and being grateful. And then instead of living in the negative, now you're living in the positive a little bit more. Okay? And you couple that with not adding to the negative and to the shittiness by following number 2 and not being a shitty person. And you couple that with exercising every day so that you're improving yourself physically, mentally, and emotionally. Now you have a recipe for a better, happier, more positive, good life. And you can spread that goodness throughout. And goodness is just as contagious as badness. So if you're going to choose which one to spread the goodness. All right? That's all I got today. Thank you, guys. Don't forget to hit the hotline with more questions and feedback and comments and accountability buddy stuff and whatever you want to talk about. 202-670-1114. Hit like, hit subscribe, turn on the little notification bell button on your YouTubes and stuff so you know when new videos post. Spread the good word. If you like what you're listening to, spread the good word. Tell your friends about it. If you don't like what you're listening to, tell your enemies about it. Either way, spread the word. Thank you guys again. I love you all. Stay strong.